Hello and welcome to the debate. I'm your host Maqbool with you at PTV World. In today's show, we're going to be taking a look at two important stories. The first is in reference to the developments that have been going on around the world with, of course, Pakistan's delegation headed by the former Foreign Minister, Mr. Bilawal Bhutto Zardari, going to the US and other different capitals of the world to reiterate Pakistan's stance on India's involvement in state-sponsored terrorism and, of course, moving forward, what will be the ways in which this needs to be tackled with Mr. Bilawal highlighting that the region is now on a higher alert and more prone to conflict because of India's action. And this is particularly important in the ways that we see other countries outside of the region as well, including the US, that have, of course, also contributed towards the ceasefire in the recent conflict with India, is, of course, something very, very integral in the ways that what is the possibility of them actually playing a more important role in terms of where this region is heading and how to bring India to the negotiating table and whether or not this influence exists. And while, of course, this is a matter that has been expressed by Pakistan, we also see that Pakistan's own counterterrorism efforts have been lauded by the US and have also been appreciated as a very important counterterrorism partner for the US. And so in the ways in which Pakistan has been dealing with this issue at home and in the region is important, with particular links, of course, that this has with India and the kind of credible evidence that Pakistan has been putting forward to support that. So what will be made of this particular nexus and whether or not the US can actually play a very tangible and important role in this regard remains to be seen and will be the focus of our first segment. Our next one is going to be taking a look at the Iran-US nuclear talks, the sixth round that is due to end on Sunday, and this is very, very important in terms of the recent developments where we see that there seems to be a possibility of escalation, with US intelligence reporting that Israel may be hitting the nuclear sites in Iran, with the US also making moves of evacuating its embassies in Iraq and, of course, moving forward any non-essential personnel, saying that this is a precarious situation in the Middle East and potentially could lead to conflict. The US has also, of course, warned of striking Iran in case it does not comply and goes ahead with a nuclear deal with Iran, also reciprocating with the same kind of threats. And of course, this is important to be seen as to whether or not these nuclear talks will eventually succeed and whether this can actually stop a full-scale conflict in the region. So that is going to be our focus in the second segment of the show today. For this and more, as always, in the studios, I've been joined by senior analyst Farrukh Pitafi and Raja Faisal, and we've also been joined online by Major General retired Zahid Mahmood. Thank you very much, Zahid, for joining us and being a part of the discussion. And I'll speak to you with regards to what has been happening, of course, in terms of putting forward Pakistan's stance on India's involvement in terrorist activities in Pakistan and the region and its links with terror networks. And this is an important dynamic for countries like the US as well. And so while we appreciate and laud Pakistan's stance in terms of supporting and acknowledging the US's efforts in mediating a ceasefire, it is important to recognize at the core of the issues and in the ways that India as a presence in the region, of course, as a rogue state, puts forward this threat that Mr. Bilawal is also pointing out of a higher scale conflict and putting this entire region into threat. How much of that also is a problem for the US, and how much of that will the US will also be able to negotiate in the current situation, in the absence of an all-out conflict, but in the presence of the ceasefire and the ways that this potential exists? What can the US actually do in terms of moving towards peace and making sure that the region is in fact stable while we know what India is doing?
You're asking me, Sana?
Yes, Zahid.
Yeah. Yeah, Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Thank you very much for the invite. I think United States has played a key role in scaling down the conflict, and that they have done primarily on the request of the Indian authorities. Let there be no doubt in anybody's mind that it was Pakistan who initiated. Of course, Pakistan was willing. Pakistan was hoping that the sense will prevail, but it was thrusted upon us. This conflict was thrusted upon Pakistan. Pakistan never chose to go this way, but this was a destiny, I would say, for India, which was chosen by their own so-called political thugs. I don't call them leaders. But of course, United States of America has played a key role in this. But this role which they have adopted, that came after the start of the escalation. Why I say like this? Because you understand that we all know that how J.D. Vance, the vice president, was, posturing that we have nothing to do with this conflict 24 hours before the conflict, before the start of the hostilities. And now, just after the start, they were all involved because Indians knew that if the Pakistanis are not stopped from taking any action against India, this will bring shame, and this will, take the war to the higher escalation ladders. So Indians were expecting that they will target the civilian locations, mosques which they have targeted, and civilian locations, and create a new norm in this region. I don't know why they always make this mistake. They did this in Pulwama as well. They undermined the state of Pakistan. They undermined the resolve of Pakistani nation. They undermined the response capability of the Pakistani nation over there as well. And again, in this Pahalgam incident, they undermined Pakistan's capabilities and capacity. Well, this is all past. Now coming over to US role, US has to play a role because this conflict is between two nuclear countries. The US has already invested, or US has already taken certain political and diplomatic positions with regards to India, them being as the so-called claimed net security provider and a kind of a challenger against their number one competitor, that is China. But of course, now United States will think 100 times that this role they'll be able to play or not, which certainly they will never. I repeat, they will never play this role. They will never challenge China, especially militarily, or the Chinese interest in this region. They can scuttle for some time, but they will never challenge the way United States or the West would like them to, challenge. So I think Pakistan must take advantage of the present recognition of their role against war on terror, against terrorism, especially the statement coming from General Corella, who is the commander CENTCOM, that actually show us the actual position or the actual stance of the government of United States and the people of United States. Though this is a statement by a military commander to the standing committee, but I have been in the CENTCOM. I exactly know that this standing committee procedures and everything which is being uttered there has a 100% support of the government and the people of the United States of America. So this is coming from the United States. Pakistan must take advantage of this environment. Pakistan need American help, to be very honest, for stabilization of Afghanistan, because our situation with India is directly linked with the situation in Afghanistan, because soil of Afghanistan will be used by the Indian as their proxies are having a free time there. They have lodging, boarding, and all kinds of facilities over there. Their clients, I am referring towards their proxies which are there, even in Balochistan and Afghanistan, they have access there. So we need to have American support. They have the recognition, and Pakistan must build on this.
Right, absolutely. There's also, of course, the ways in which we have seen that counterterrorism efforts by Pakistan have been lauded. And while, of course, we put forward what we have achieved within Pakistan and the way that we have countered terrorism, it is also important to understand the spoilers that exist outside of Pakistan, and, of course, in the ways that India is related to a lot of these activities and this terror financing and terror networks, also the nexus with the terror networks in Afghanistan. And so I want your take on, when we speak about this potential threat in the region, and while we know that this is being lauded and supported by the US in terms of efforts made by Pakistan, can there be an actual course of action between the US and Pakistan in terms of anti-terrorism efforts and cooperation that exist on ground to counter terrorism in the region?
And Janazai, if you can also highlight the fact that, of course, in past, the former directors of CIA, even they themselves have highlighted time and again that India is behind financing and facilitating terrorism in Pakistan. Of course, the terrorists are in Afghanistan, but they are being facilitated and financed by India. if they have been, of course, accepting it in past, can we say that after General Kurilla's, Kurilla's this statement, can we expect that Americans would be giving a shut-up call to the Indians when it comes to, of course, facilitating this terrorism in Pakistan?
Raj Sahab, my apologies. It's little distorted, but I have generally understood that you are hinting towards the realization that India is using the soil and supporting the terrorism and financing, and of course I can understand that. Now, Sana, coming over to what you asked, that stability of Afghanistan without Pakistan is not possible. Why? Because they have some stability, the economic actions, the political actions which they have to take. Pakistan and America will have to, United States will have to work on the Doha Accord in true literal spirit alongside with the support of the interim setup in Afghanistan. We need to support them. We need to put pressure through America on Afghanis to have an all-inclusive government, to have more stability in Afghanistan. Kabul should act for the betterment and the stability of Afghanis, not the Indians. We can link this what Raja Faisal Saab was saying, that Indians have not invested these $3 billion in Afghanistan for the betterment or for the welfare or for the economic prosperity of the people of Afghanistan. They, being Muslims, are the main target. Islam and Muslims are the main target of this Hindutva and RSS mentality. Had they been so sincere to the humanity, they would have not carried out, genocidal actions in Kashmir. They should not have been killing Christians in the Seven Sister States. They should not have been pursuing Gurbat Singh and, killing Nijar Singh in Canada against the Sikhs. So they have no respect for the humanity. This RSS Modi regime in Delhi is not only anti-social, it is anti-human. Let there be no doubt. I don't call them leadership. That's why they are very lucky. Once this government was established in 2021 in Doha, India was the first country who really opposed them, especially in the Security Council. They were part of the Security Council, and they were emphasizing on the entire world that not to recognize this government, which has no respect for the women, and they have the issues related to the human rights and all that. But after 3-4 months, once they saw that this de facto government is there, and now we have to use this environment against Pakistan, so they got involved to Afghanistan, and they were able to find these very easily. They could find these proxies there, their clients. So they themselves became the proxy sponsor, and they had the clients. Now, entire international, this is 21st century, Raja Saab. Everybody understands that who is doing what in which state, militarily, politically, socially, economically. So they exactly know how this soil is being, used against, not only against Pakistan, but now against the entire international community. With Americans, problem is this: if you will tell them that you have to do this for the stability of Pakistan, they might not come in a big way. But once you will tell them that this soil of Afghanistan will be used against them by IS Khorasan and all that, they will come in a big way. So we have to take advantage of that. And this is the new norm now. This is what the diplomacy is. Even your best of the friend will be more interested in their own interest rather than your stability. Environment is there, understanding is there, and this Indian terrorism and their terrorism as a lead instrument of their policy is understood, and it has already been highlighted. Even the reports of the Five Eyes report, the Canada, this five countries intelligence organization, that is against India. It is specified in that the state of India is pursuing the terrorism as their lead policy instrument, and the government of India, raw, they are the actual organizations behind this. The American courts have implicated Amit Shah and Doval and this Raw in the case of that plot for murder of the Gurban Singh. So everybody understand that, and that's why India is not being encouraged. After this Pahalgam, not a single country other than maybe Kabul and Israel, not a single country in the world has really taken up, has stood with India or they're supporting them in any way. So I think they have the biggest realization. Pakistan must take advantage of this environment.
Absolutely. And Farrukh, I want your take on that too, because when we talk about and appreciate the US's role in the recent ceasefire between India and Pakistan, it's important also to recognize that that's, as Mr. Bilal was pointing out, is not the end. Of course, issues at the core of it still remain, like we're talking about terrorism, like we're talking about what's happening in Indian illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir. And I understand the interest that Mr. Trump may have towards moving for peace, but how will that translate into actual action? Ceasefire is one thing, but in actual in moving towards sustainable peace between India and Pakistan, what can the US do?
Absolutely, Sana, and I'm going to talk about that. But before that, I wanted to add to what was General Saab saying. Remember that General Khadila might have actually praised, who is the head of CENTCOM, who has praised Pakistan's efforts in terrorism. It was President Trump during his first address to joint session of the Congress, where he actually praised, singled only one country out, and it was Pakistan, because Pakistan immediately had handed over a terrorist to America. India has been trying to actually, even at this moment, the Shashi Tharoor and company who went abroad, their basic purpose was to actually try to actually project Pakistan as the Mordor of terrorism or the epicenter of terrorism. At that time, this kind of acknowledgement is actually a slap in Indian face, right? Because the world's foremost power is acknowledging that Pakistan is part of the solution, not the problem. This is saying something. Regarding what was said earlier about India's involvement in Pakistan and terrorism in Pakistan, remember there used to be a Secretary of Defense called Chuck Hagel under Obama. And he actually came on record and said that India is sponsoring terrorism in Pakistan. What happened? And this time what has changed? Immediately, because India threw a tantrum, Chuck Hagel was asked to step down, and an Indophile called Ashton Carter was immediately replaced him, right? So at this moment, what has happened so far, what I was saying yesterday also, Sana, so far India had convinced through lobbying efforts the West needs India to contain China, right? But what has happened then? They stupidly attacked Pakistan and ended up having a swollen upper lip and being beaten by Pakistan. So what happened? Now the world knows that it is not the world that needs India to contain China, it is India that needs the world to help India out if in case there is a brawl between India and China or India and Pakistan. So this is a very interesting state of affairs. India since 1990s has been using its blackmail of this central position to actually isolate Pakistan and tell everybody don't include Pakistan in anything. So in 1993, Pakistan had requested ASEAN countries to include Pakistan as a dialogue partner. Now what has happened? Finally, it has been announced that they are considering to include Pakistan. Similarly, there are reports that perhaps Russia might be actually pushing Pakistan's name for BRICS, permanent membership. Similarly, so many other things. So India could not have done Pakistan a bigger favor. Now, when India feels it is vulnerable, when it has a government which is so populist that it only takes care of worries about optics, what happens? It becomes automatically vulnerable. So when it is vulnerable and when it has to actually literally practically beg for an invite to G7, at that time what happens? The world has a say in the matters relating to India and Pakistan. It is a stated objective of India to try to make Pakistan suffer. They have been trying to do it for quite some time. For example, even now, why did they declare that IWT Indus Waters Treaty is held in abeyance? Because they want us to die of thirst. We die of hunger, right? This is the nature of their hatred towards Pakistan. So with that kind of mentality, any country that is there can see what India is, and that's why they have some protection. Just very quickly, 2 points more. Look at the desire for optics. When they couldn't actually get the kind of results after Pahalgam, what happens? Narendra Modi goes to the body that has replaced their planning commission called Niti Aayog. And there, after fudging numbers, he declares that India has surpassed Japan as a world's one of the largest economies, and it is now number 4. Although that is in future, whether that happens or not, we don't know. But imagine there is no other country that has single-handedly built India's economy like Japan. From Maruti Suzuki to various other cars, they totally reshaped India's economy. And you are doing this to Japan. The news is Japan is not happy. So bye-bye Quad. Similarly, because of whatever they have been doing and whatever the other eye has been doing, I2U2 is also almost dead in waters. So with this kind of simpletons ruling countries and trying to actually get whatever they want, they end up actually spoiling the barat, and they have done it.
Right. Faisal, I want your take on this too, because this is important in terms of not just the way that Pakistan is going to be dealing with India, but in the ways that we see this entire region being looked at by the US also, and in the ways that different players, including China and Afghanistan and Iran, are also going to play out when we talk about the regional dynamics.
Yes, Sana, first of all, I just wanted to highlight that, Quad members, 2 of the Quad members, and of course, that's not America, the rest of the 2 I'm talking about. I concluded meetups with them before 7th of May, and one thing is for sure, that they were, of course, contacted by Indians to seek their help against Pakistan, but they said that we want to see the concrete evidence that actually makes us sure about whether Pakistan is involved or not, and then we will decide. So they gave a simple no to India at that time, because in accordance to their own research which they had done, of course Pakistan was not involved in Pahalgam at all, and that's why they have been, of course, shying away from today's India, because they can simply say whatever India is doing, it's just because of the design India has been crafting since more than 10 years, since Modi has been in power. Here I wanted to mention that it's not about the countries, Sana, it's not about any of the Western countries, it's about 2 ideologies, and one of them is Zionism, the other one is Hindutva ideology. Zionists, they could only see one ideology in this region, and of course India is the country where there is hatred for Pakistan, and they could see that this Hindutva ideology is, of course, so hateful towards Muslims that it actually matters too much to the Zionists. And of course we know that Zionism has a significant control in the Western power hubs, and that is why they have been creating lobbying for India, for RSS India, for BJP's India, and that is why we have been seeing that their economy was even flourishing as well. I don't forget the time around 4 years ago, there was this Indian diplomat, wherever he met me in any of the ceremonies or in any of the places he met me, he always said to me, Raja, what would you do? Because your country is not doing fine in terms of economy. Look at my country. My country is economically so powerful that you won't be able to do anything against my country. Then I said to him that the history of subcontinent since the day one, and I said to him that the kind of history I know since the Muslims stepped in subcontinent, there was not a single time that somebody from the east side came to fight against the west side and won. It was every time it was people from the western side of subcontinent always bashed somebody on the east side, and this is the known history of subcontinent. And I always used to tell him that no matter how strong India gets in terms of economy, the will to fight and to will to defend the country of Pakistan is so unmatchable when it comes to fighting. Pakistan knows how to fight, and that will always give you a gobsmacking reply, and this is what happened. And I don't know where he's serving now, and I don't know whether he would be watching my face right now and talking to him. I'm talking to you because you are watching me wherever you are.
Right.
And this is what our reply is. And every time your country shows the economic muscles to Pakistan, it's not the economic muscles that matter here. It's the will to fight and will to resist the country and will to defend the country that matters the most.
Absolutely.
And that is what Pakistan has been, of course, displaying splendidly.
Yeah, absolutely. We're now going to be taking a look at our next segment, which is with the Iran-US talks. And this is, of course, important, particularly in terms of the region and the ways that this escalation potentially exists. And General Zahid, I'll take your perspective on this first, because we know that the Iran-US talks are continuing, and the sixth round will begin again this weekend. And it's essential to see whether or not we're going to see that escalation that now seems to be reported and to be expected, given the U.S. moving away its officials from the embassy in Iraq, also with reference to U.S. intelligence pointing towards Israel's potential of striking Iran. So I want your take on how much of the success of these talks depends on both the US and Iran, and what really is the way forward in terms of avoiding this particular escalation, given the fact that the US and Israel nexus also exists.
Sana, at max, as of today, we can keep our fingers crossed. I think both situation is not bad. Its situation is not good. It's extremely bad, and it's extremely dangerous. President Trump has already, alluded that the likelihood is not that encouraging, the outcome of the talks. So probably he's already expecting that Iran will not go back from its position, but they were, and the statement which has come from the president of Iran, President about taking on the targets, the American targets in the region if they are attacked. Unfortunately, this has been an old wish, and Israel has been trying so hard to get United States involved in a warlike situation, rather application against Iran and Iran. This will suit none other than Israel. No one in the world will be having an advantage of this situation other than Israel. This is a serious situation, and Iranians have already ordered for the warlike exercises. So they are into the mode. Both the countries, I mean, both the groups, both the sides are seriously gesturing what is going to happen if these talks are failed. Unfortunately, I mean, last 20 years, probably it's the first time that the agency has, atomic agency has given report against Iran. So these are the serious allegations, though Iran is saying that they can come and inspect and all that, but that will take time. Probably, I think Russia, China, and other big powers, they must come in now. It is the time to get involved, because if it escalates, because Israel is already in a position and in a mood to escalate things very quickly against Iran, because they take Iran as the last hurdle, the only hurdle in the region against their expansionist policies, against the application of the Zionism. And this was one of the reasons, the way they handled with the, I'm not going into the, I would not like to go into the debate of proxies and all that, Hamas and whatever, because that is a separate thing. But at least Israel was happy that I have taken a lot out of Iran's effort. So that's why they asked their friends India to hasten their application against Pakistan, because next resort is next opposition must be Pakistan for them. But if this war starts, then the spillover effects will certainly going to affect Pakistan also, the whole region, rather the international community, the whole international system will be challenged. Now it depends upon Russia and China how they, do their diplomacy. I think this is the high time for the big powers and for the West also. They must understand that if this conflict starts, already we have a conflict between Russia and Ukraine. We have a conflict between India and Pakistan, and now in the Middle East, Americans directly getting involved into this, because even if this application is through Israel, it will be taken as the American direct application. So Iran's response will be on the American objectives and targets, and things can, I mean, one can initiate the war, it is very easy, but who will end it, that has to be seen. And then there are a lot of proxies already involved. Pakistan Indian situation is also, you know, very critical, because anybody, third party, can play a stupid role. There is no mechanism existing. Same way, there is no mechanism between Israel and Iran also, where talks can take place, or a track to diplomacy, something. So there are shortage of mechanisms of conflict management first, and then the conflict resolution also. So I think this is a very dangerous situation. I think the big powers must come in now, and even powers like regional powers like Pakistan and all countries like especially the Arab world, they should come in now to at least give a chance to the peace through extension of the talks, or maybe compelling Iran and America both to have some kind of a mechanism where the trust can be regained. Otherwise, the only winner in this scenario will be Israel, and the losers will be the whole world other than Israel. That I can very confidently say.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Zahid Mahmood, for joining us and being a part of the discussion and sharing your insights. And Farrukh, I'll come to you now, because this is, again, a very, very serious situation. We already have the genocide going on in Gaza, and the Middle East is already an area of conflict and potential de-escalation. And now with this, these moves and the kind of rhetoric we're hearing from Mr. Trump as well, what do you make of what can possibly be the evolving situation, given the fact that this a flag of peace is something that is being raised and championed by Mr. Trump? How will that translate into when we look at the potential that exists of a conflict with Iran?
Right, Sana, on Sunday, actually, as you pointed out at the start, the dialogue once again starts. One hopes that something concrete actually comes out of that. There's always, this is one of the tactics in any dialogue, that you actually harden your position before going into talks, and then you actually work your way down until you get a solution. I hope that in coming days we see some solution, because people of Iran are beautiful. I know them, and they don't deserve the kind of hell, economic hell they have been through in the past 2 decades. Regarding Israel, of course, there is a serious threat, and that's why the U.S. has evacuated 3 of its embassies in most of the staff of embassies in 3 Arab countries. I can recall Iraq, and I can recall Kuwait, but we don't know what exactly is going to happen. Yeah, third one is Bahrain, I think. So these 3 places, right? So there's always this fear, but remember that fight has been going on between Israel and Iran for quite some time. If you remember, a few months ago, actually, Hamas's head was actually killed inside, Tehran. Similarly, we saw stories where all of a sudden a remote-controlled machine gun would start killing people off in Tehran, and it was actually done by Israel. And then Israel actually attacked a few months ago, if you remember, and then there was a counter-strike also, before, of course, the US election, and there was a counter-strike, all those drones and everything. So there is a history there, but I'm hoping that President Trump, because he has expressed this desire to find solution to every conflict, I hope that in coming days sanity prevails. Remember, when it comes to Israel, I don't see it particularly as an Israel problem. I see it as a Benjamin Netanyahu problem. And Benjamin Netanyahu has become so isolated within his own structure, because he has created this hardliner, extreme hardliner coalition, where if he does not fear that bigotry, he actually fears losing his power, right? That's why he has been actually on the killing rampage. But there is something else that was just said regarding possibility of India doing something if God forbid something was happening in Iran. I was just asked this before coming to the program. I don't think India is in position, because today I got a call from an Indian person who has in the know He claimed that their Munna Bhai is actually on his way out, and the claim was that 1 month will be enough for the tiger he was trying to devour him, because everybody is so angry with him, right? Netanyahu perhaps might also face something similar, but I'm hoping that there is going to be some kind of reconciliation between Iran and the US.
Absolutely. Faisal, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, the kind of course, statements which are coming from the Israeli side right after their assessment that, of course, these talks are not going to be successful. They claiming that straight after that, of course, we will be attacking Iran, and that would be considered as, of course, to be on the safe side, that Iran never uses it against us. So it would be a precautionary measure, and a surgical strike would be conducted. See, another surgical strike, and of course we are quite familiar with this word. And if that is going to take place, of course, I am seeing, because at the same time we are getting statements from the Iranian side as well, that they would be sending in thousands of ballistics inside Israel, and that would itself create a havoc for Israel. And even before these ballistics, they reach there, even now while we are talking, people are thinking about leaving Israel. Reason being, of course, we shouldn't be forgetting that Israel is, of course, the majority of its population, it has actually migrated from elsewhere in the world to Israel, and to them, of course, they have the safe havens and they are rushing away, and that is what they will be doing. And I think, to me, the kind of outcry in recent past we have been seeing from the Western countries against Netanyahu, this whole statement which Netanyahu is coming up with, it has everything to do with that, because he wants to keep himself aligned with his own people, and trying to ensure them that, look, these are the countries who are against you, Iran is against you, and everyone is against you, and I'm here to safeguard you, and that is why I'm fighting for you. You have to stand with me. So to me, it is heading towards a disaster. I would agree with Farrukh that the pledge Donald Trump came with, he always said that, of course, he is going to ensure that no conflict is there, and everything is reaching out to peace.
Yeah.
To me, I think he has to do something, and I would agree with Janaab Zahid as well when he said that the regional powers, they need to intervene,
Yeah.
and of course they need to talk to US, talk to all of the stakeholders and Iran as well, and come to a conclusion that is acceptable to all other countries.
Right. Farrukh, you wanted to add
Yeah, I
something?
just remembered that there was a plane crash in India. And
Yeah.
in conclusion, I just wanted to express my grief and condolences with the families of the victims.
Yeah,
Right.
same from my side as well. And so far, of course, we are hearing the news that all of the people who were on board, they have lost their lives,
Except one.
they-
One
except
one walked away. Yeah.
and more than 80 people, they have lost their lives on ground as well, because it was a highly populated area. And
Sad story.
Sana, once more I wanted to say that Indian social media users, once again they were saying that, oh, Pakistan is behind it. I mean, what is this?
Absolutely. And
Madness.
we hope better sense prevails. But thank you,
Yeah.
Farrukh, and thank you, Faisal, for joining us in the debate as always. That's all that we have time for. We'll now see you tomorrow.